All right, hey guys, welcome to Harvesting Strength. So today we're going to talk about part 2 of Will's training, getting ready for his previous meet. So the meet already actually happened, but we're kind of going a little bit backwards in time just to kind of highlight some of the key things that occurred in his training. And one of the first things we talked about in his first video was strength acquisition. So we just really wanted to base this 6 exercises, really focusing on just his strength and not really employing necessarily the components of power and explosiveness and things like that. You would think the whole time through with training, you always want to be powerful and explosive. But my thing is this, with exercise selection, you're limited to so much. I mean, yes, you could probably get someone to, dedicate a workout, all day long, I guess, if they wanted to, but all the physicality of that training could be detrimental to their performance. So one of the things I really wanted to focus on was getting him the basis of, strength, squat, bench, deadlift, getting ready for competition. I wanted him to have a good basis and foundation, and then to employ more speed and being more forceful. So now in this video, we're going to highlight some things that he's done, primarily with the squat, using the bands, having to be more forceful and to fight through those sticking points. So the bands with that, the dead good mornings, he has this tendency to where his chest drops, and we're trying to really put him in, a compromising position. And the good morning is a great thing for hip strength and, hamstring growth and glute growth and development, but we're putting it in a dead position to where the weight is rested, and then he has to overcome it, because in competition, when you see him max in his meet, he will have this moment where he does dive down a little bit and he has to have the strength to bring his chest up. So we'll look into that on bench. Again, band work, a lot of dead band resisted pressing, just, again, having to overcome the obstacle of, dead weight on his chest, but then to come up with explosion. And how we're becoming more forceful is the fact that when we use the bands, at the bottom of the lifts is when it's the lightest, but then when the band stretches and we're going against it, it gets heavier. So then we're having to be more forceful, more powerful, and just to drive through our movements. And then the last thing for deadlift, we did deadlift hyperextensions, which is I just really love for, lockout strength. But then we did a lot of isodynamic deadlifting, where he pulled against the pins, which is a motionless movement, isometric, which is great for strength. But then we also had him doing sub-maximal deadlifting to really work on the speed and becoming more forceful after the utilization of the isometrics. So let's check all this stuff out and talk afterwards. All right, so right here what we're talking about is being more forceful, and we're using band-resisted squats. Just for him to fight, at the bottom it's lighter, and at the top it gets heavier, and we're just being more forceful. The dead good mornings, although we want them to rest just a little bit longer on those straps, put him at a disadvantage, so he has to work on this bowing motion with his chest and just to be stronger to promote better posture throughout his movement. So again, we're doing more things to be forceful and explosive, but we're also implementing that concept of specificity. The band-resisted dead bench, okay? So it came off his chest. It wasn't as, quick and as explosive as we wanted, but, what we're really trying to do off here is to put him at a disadvantage, to come off the pins, and then to learn how to lock out more viciously. There are other videos and footage of him doing this a little bit more dynamic. Now, the isodynamic deadlift, I love it, because at first you're going with that isometric contraction, which really, gets the central nervous system fired, because when you perform an isometric contraction, you can really, utilize and put a heavy amount of strength into the movement. And there's other things too that are involved, such as, post-activation, potentiation, PAP. But after the fact of the isometric, you go into really, lighter sub-maximal lifts and just, be super explosive, dynamic, and dangerous, which we're trying to do right here. And then at the end, deadlift hyperextensions. I love them. Really great for lockout strength, get the hips going, the lower back going, and just really building that posterior chain. But as you can see, the heavy emphasis is on that hinging motion of the hips to be stronger with the deadlift. All right, so as you saw in the video, we worked a lot of movements, to employ more power and be more forceful, and to kind of give you a little bit more depth to it. Our first few sets could have been, heavy sets of 3, heavy sets of doubles, but then on top of that, we went into these multiple sets to where we did things such as, the squat variations, the bench variations, the deadlift variations, all those things. But, whether we used the band, whether we did it from a, dead position, chains, whatever it may be, we did multiple sets. So something that has been talked about by many people is, rep schemes. You want to be powerful, more explosive. You want to be able to be fresh and to not have a heavy rep scheme that could cause an illicit fatigue. So, let's say you're someone who wants to practice more explosion and forcefulness on, a squat, and you do 3 sets of 5. Let's flip that now. So 5 sets of 3. So now what happens is you get 5 sets of 3 reps, so that it's less reps, less fatigue. Maybe use a lesser value of percentages to be, lighter on submaximal weight and just be more forceful. So you always want to front end, at least when you're trying to get to that peak point, I guess in my eyes, front end the heavy sets, so the heavy squat, bench, and deadlift to kind of assess your growth and development, and to cycle to, peaking parts of your training. But then after the fact, go into your variations where, you go into some explosive components, some variations that might mimic their deficiencies and strength to help them kind of elevate their performance. That's the kind of way I like to approach it all. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. The next one that's going to come out here in a few weeks will highlight his meet and what we did to get prepped for the meet, and what we are planning to do in the future, which is currently now, to get him ready for his next meet, which is secretly a national meet. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully some stuff comes up that you enjoy. And if you have any questions, check us out at harvestingstrength.com and we can get that stuff sorted out.